All right, I am doing a book unboxing today. I'm really happy to report that a viewer contacted me about dropping some books off, and she brought 8 boxes. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. I do see a few of them here, and I think I'm going to be quite thrilled with this book box unboxing here. So let me know what you think in the comments, whether you join me for the live stream or you're dropping by afterward. Feel free to leave your thoughts. Let's make this happen here. The first two that I'm going to pull out are 2 copies of Salem's Lot. I've got one that is an older copy here, and I needed Salem's Lot for my collection. You know, I actually went to Books A Million not long ago, and they didn't have any hardbacks. All they had were about 4 or 5 damaged paperback copies. Here's a newer one. So yeah, I'm really thrilled with the very first 2 books that I'm pulling out of this thing. And this is all Stephen King books in this first box, but there are 8 boxes with a lot of different authors and a lot of different genres involved. Here is a collection of short stories by King, one that I really enjoyed, Just After Sunset. Here's a copy of Richard Bachman's Blaze. For those that aren't aware, this is Stephen King's of Mice and Men. This is his take on the classic story, and I really enjoyed it. It made my top 15 Stephen King books. Check that video out if you haven't already. Just put that one up the other day. I'm really excited about what I'm pulling out here, my friends. A massive copy of Stephen King's It. And this is going to be like within the next couple of books that I read, I'm finally going to finish this. So from what I understand, it's a masterpiece. So super, super thrilled. I do have a paperback copy of it back there, but these really look to be in good shape, these paperbacks. So let's grab another one. Another massive book. Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Haven't read it yet, but I plan to here in the near future. Here's an old one of Carrie. Wow, interesting. This is a book that I read. It was either earlier this year or last year I read it. Glad to have a hardback. You know, most of my Stephen Kings are paperback, so this is great for me. This is going to save me a lot collecting because there are quite a few hardbacks that I want that are in here. Here's a copy of Desperation in hardback. That's the first adult book that I ever read. The first adult piece of fiction beyond YA novels and children's books was Desperation. It was either that or A Time to Kill by John Grisham. It's been so long, I just can't remember. Hearts in Atlantis in hardback. It's not all Stephen King either, guys. She brought me a bunch of stuff. I'm really looking forward to going through these. My bookshelves are going to look quite different once I get some of these things on there. She brought me a copy of The Dead Zone. For those of you just joining me, stop on over to my Reading Funk channel on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, here's a copy of Storm of the Century, which is a screenplay, I believe. Yeah, you can tell by the way that it's written up that it's a screenplay. But a viewer of my Reading Funk YouTube channel contacted me and dropped off 8 massive boxes of these great books. Wow, this is a really in good condition copy of 11/22/63, which is a time travel novel where a guy goes back in time to attempt to prevent the John F. Kennedy assassination. This is, for many constant readers, this is their favorite Stephen King book. I read it in 3 days. I loved it. It also made my top 15 Stephen King ranking video from the other day. Here's a copy, hardback, Different Seasons. Stephen King's End of Watch, the 3rd installment in the Bill Hodges trilogy. All of these books are in like perfect condition. They look like they've been grabbed off of the shelf in the bookstore. Stephen King's Night Shift. Let me grab another box here, guys. I'm going to go through all the Stephen King's first, then I'll get to the rest. Sleeping Beauties by Stephen King and his son, Owen King. Looks like we've got some King's paperbacks here. Holy moly, a bunch more hardbacks. Under the Dome. Here's a book that's included in the Dark Tower series, The Wind Through the Keyhole. This is an addition to the story that King wrote after the series was finished. I read it. Wasn't my favorite piece of the series, that's for sure, but pretty interesting. Couple fairy tales in it. Yeah, Kevin, yeah, this is a great book haul. Hello, Dee. Yeah, this is a book haul from a lady that contacted me. She watches my YouTube channel, and she wanted to drop some books off. So this is great. Full Dark No Stars, which is a compilation by King. I'm basically flooded in books after this. Dreamcatcher takes place in Maine, as many Stephen King books are wont to do. Here's a hardback copy of Needful Things. This lady really took good care of her books. You know, I'm impressed that these books are in such good shape. Oh, wow. Wow. My paperback copy of Firestarter is about beat to death. Here's a nice hardback copy. One of the first books Stephen King published. Made a movie with Drew Barrymore many years ago. Finders Keepers, Book 2 in the Bill Hodges trilogy. One of my favorite Stephen King books and one of my favorite books of all time, Duma Key. This is a great one. Yeah, they are in insanely good condition. Every one of these things look darn near flawless. Oh yeah, first edition. Yeah, I'd love to have the Dark Tower in first edition. Here's a copy of 4 Past Midnight, which is a book that I read earlier this year. Fantastic compilation with 4 novellas. Very dark horror stories indeed are the inclusions in 4 Past Midnight. Bazaar of Bad Dreams. This is a compilation of short stories. Interestingly enough, if you're a constant reader, you might not know it. I read the hardback. The paperback actually has an additional short story that the hardback does not have. I think it's called Birthday Cake. Revival, or Stephen King's Frankenstein. Read it? Wow. I got a copy of The Talisman. You know, I have a copy of The Talisman, but I don't have the jacket. So I'm really happy. This one's going right up on my shelf in place of the other one that I've got. Hello, everyone joining us in the chat. Doing a book unboxing from a viewer of my YouTube channel, Reading Funk. Go check it out if you're watching on Facebook. Here's a copy of Misery, one of the best Stephen King books. Just about anyone that has read this would tell you that this is amongst the best. Annie Wilkes is the antagonist in this one. Stephen King's Rose Madder. Let me grab another one here. I think there might be some more King books. We'll go through those, then we'll check out the rest of them. Bunch more King books here. Wow, this is a classic edition of The Shining. Stephen King's, well, one of Stephen King's ghost stories. This is probably the most popular ghost story of all time. Let me know in the comments. Am I wrong about that? You know, I'm into ghost stories, that's for sure. Here's the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, my least enjoyed Stephen King book. It was interesting to catch up with Danny, though, the little boy from The Shining who actually had The Shining. Oh, I needed this one. Cujo. This is one that I have to read. Haven't read it yet. You know, I haven't read it yet. I haven't read The Stand yet. I haven't read Cujo yet. I've got a ways to go before I finish every Stephen King book. I'll be starting If It Bleeds this weekend, which will be my 45th Stephen King book. Yes, I do have Rage. I actually should have, like, I have 2 copies of it in the Bachman books here, and I know that she dropped off another copy, so I actually have 3 copies of it. Pet Sematary, which is a novel that I needed to complete my collection. My collection may well be completed by the time I get through these things. Reading this one later this year as well. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to be castled in by these books here as I stack them up around me. Here's a hardback copy of Christine. You know, a lot of and I needed this one to complete the Bill Hodges trilogy. I actually had books 1 and 2, Finders Keepers and End of Watch, but I needed this one. So another step closer to a complete Stephen King collection. I was going to say here, I'm pretty sure I needed, actually, I have an old beat up copy of this. Well, I have a nice, brand new, basically, copy of the Tommyknockers now. A lot of booktubers here on YouTube, they have P.O. boxes, and the viewers will send them things, and they go through them like I'm doing here. I'm thinking about doing that myself. Come and join me on YouTube if you're watching on Facebook. Just check out Reading Funk. Gerald's Game. I needed it. It was another one that I didn't have, and another one that I haven't read. Thanks, Susan Millard. Here's a copy of Skeleton Crew, a book that I read last year. Pretty good compilation of Stephen King short stories. A novella in here as well, The Mist. Oh, wow. Here's Lisey's story. You know, this is a beautiful, beautiful book. It's Stephen King's haunted romance tale. And you know, the jacket's cool and everything, but this book without the jacket, I'm glad I have the jacket now because I have a copy. This is the coolest cover on a book that I've ever seen. It's such a colorful, beautiful book cover. It almost makes you not even want to put the jacket on it. But I'm glad that I now have a copy with the jacket. Everything's Eventual. I needed a hardback edition of this. This is one of the best books I've ever read. Great collection of short stories in this one. The Man in the Black Suit is in this one. It's about a little boy that goes fishing one day in the woods and comes across the man in the black suit, the devil himself. Very good story. Some Dark Tower in here as well. You've read the Dark Tower series, you might not know it. There's a prelude to the Tower in Everything's Eventual. You're on the beam with Roland again. It's a great addition to the series. From a Buick 8, a book that I just reviewed the other day here on YouTube. Yeah, Andy and Alex, that is very true. These are some really good ones. Here's a piece of gunslinger history. The Eyes of the Dragon. This is an Arthurian novel, basically, King Arthur, but this one's about King Roland the Good and Arthur Eld and the line of Eld, the gunslingers. Randall Flagg, a recurring Stephen King character, plays the evil Merlin in this one. It's a YA novel that King wrote for his young daughter. Very good book, and it as well made my top 15 Stephen Kings. Let me know. Can somebody give me a comment? Can you guys hear me nice and clear? How do I sound? Let me know in the comments, please. The Dark Half, a Castle Rock tale. I read about maybe 1 book a week on average. I just finished a really lengthy novel, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. One of the best books I've ever read. I'm really putting thought into how I'm going to review that here on my Reading Funk YouTube channel. Join me on YouTube, Reading Funk, if you're watching on Facebook. Here's a ghost story by Stephen King, Bag of Bones. Thanks for the comments on the sound, guys. Here's a book that I almost couldn't stand, Stephen King's Cell. This one's basically a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. The massive Stephen King's Insomnia. This is Dark Tower. It's a Dark Tower companion novel. Gives background and depth to the series. The famous The Green Mile. I actually have this in the original installments that it came out in. It was 6 installments, I think. Black House, the sequel to The Talisman. This is another Dark Tower companion novel. And the last one in this box, a nice hardback copy of Dolores Claiborne. This is a great book. It ranked pretty well in my Ranking 15 Stephen King video that I did just the other day. I'm going to be buried in books by the end of this thing. Let me grab another box here, guys. Looks like we're going to be moving on from the Stephen Kings here. I see at least one Stephen King in this batch. Who was asking about the Bachman books there in the comments? Here's another paperback copy of the Bachman books. You know, Rage is in this, the novella Rage. And Rage is actually a discontinued Stephen King novel. You see, it's about a kid that goes to school with a gun, right? And he holds the classroom hostage. And when Columbine happened here in America, a school shooting, Stephen King didn't want that novel to be out there anymore. So he just discontinued it. So it can be very, very difficult to find a copy of Rage. I haven't read it yet. Haven't read any of the ones in this compilation, but I will soon. That is true. Very generous donation here, guys. I'm just loving this here, going through these things. Wow. This is a Calvin and Hobbes collection. You know, here's an author that I want to give a try just because of the name, Nora Roberts. Have you guys read Nora Roberts? Let me know in the comments if she's any good. I have a feeling she is. She's a very popular author, but haven't tried her yet, but I will soon. How many Bachman books? There are like 6 or 8 Bachman books. There are 4 in the collection that I just showed you. Oh, wow. What is this? Secret Windows, Stephen King. Essays and Fiction on the Craft of Writing. I'll be damned. It looks like maybe this is a compilation of essays on the craft of writing put together by Stephen King. I'm not really sure what this is. Wow, this is a gem here. Wow, we're having a thunderstorm here, guys. Pardon me for the audio. It's really going out there. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, a kind of a novella about a little girl who gets lost in the woods, and she has a hell of a time. Read that one probably about 2 years ago. Stephen King on writing. This is one part memoir and one part about writing. It's all about the craft of writing. I think I might read this because I was thinking about writing a short story. I actually started one. Don't really know what to do with it. So this would probably be a great piece of information. Hey, Blockade Billy. This is a hardback copy of Blockade Billy, a novella by King. It's about a serial killing baseball player. He wears the number 19 on his jersey. And if you're a Dark Tower fan, you'll know what that's all about. It's all 19, as we Tower junkies like to say. Wow, Cynthia, that makes me want to read a Nora Roberts. I'm going to have to read a Nora Roberts. You know, I like to read as many different things as I can. Here's another Calvin and Hobbes. She brought me quite a few different things here. It's almost all novels, though. Here's a couple more Nora Roberts. Looks like this one might be a Western. This one maybe a mystery murder. Show you guys the rest of these Nora Roberts here. Genuine Lies. Three Fates. Engaging the Enemy. Wow, that might be a pretty good one. There's a bunch of James Pattersons over here too, so I'm really looking forward to going through those as well. There might be some more Stephen Kings as well. I'm not even halfway through these things yet. High Noon, Nora Roberts. A Truly Madly Manhattan. Table for Two. Nora Roberts, The Reef. Nora Roberts, Tribute. Nora Roberts, Happy Endings. Nora Roberts, Nightshade, Night Smoke, Night Tales. Looks like this is books 3 and 4 of the thrilling classic Night Tales series. You know, I have a book back there on my shelf called Where the Crow Flies or something like that by Jeffrey Deaver, but that's what we're getting into now. Jeffrey Deaver, a Lincoln Rhyme novel, The Cold Moon, and The Sleeping Doll, it looks like. Twisted. A Maiden's Grave. Have any of you tried Jeffrey Deaver out? I know that As the Crow Flies is a New York Times best-selling novel. Let me know what you guys think about these Jeffrey Deavers. Here's another one. Here's a prey novel by John Sanford. You know, I've read one John Sanford novel. It was one of these preys. It was called Hidden Prey. And it was about the Russian mafia. And, well, I don't want to spoil it. Jeffrey Deaver, The Burning Wire. Jeffrey Deaver, The Stone Monkey. The Vanished Man. That sounds pretty interesting. There's like a jester's mask there. I bet that's a good read. You know, I've wanted to read Deaver for a while. Now I have my choice of which Deaver I want to read. These are all in such very good... Oh, okay. So Deaver wrote The Bone Collector. I think they made that into a movie. This one's called The Coffin Dancer. A novel by the author of The Bone Collector. Oh, okay. Yeah. Here's some of these prey novels by John Sanford. I was really impressed with Hidden Prey, and it ended in such a way that only 2 novels in my life have ever ended that way. I don't want to tell you how it ends, but something really unique happens in the ending of Hidden Prey. Jeffrey Deaver's The Bone Collector. That's the one that I will read. I'll read this before the end of the year and do my review right here on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, drop by the YouTube channel, Reading Funk, and I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. Here goes what do they call these things? These are these the, you see, these are, here's a standard paperback from when I was a kid, and then they've got like these longer and more narrow ones. I don't know which one of these I like better. Do you like the narrow paperback, the taller one, or do you like the shorter, more plump one better? Just curious what your guys' preference is. Here's one called Sudden Prey and Shockwave. This one's a Virgil Flowers novel. Speaking in Tongues, Jeffrey Deaver. The Devil's Teardrop. And here's one by John Sanford, Heat Lightning. I'm glad she gave me so many of these prey novels because I really love... Oh, there's Hidden Prey. Here's Naked Prey. Whoops. And here's that novel I read that I thought was just really fantastic, Hidden Prey. I highly recommend this one. If you're in for a detective mystery fiction with some violence and an unbelievably unique ending, you're going to want to give Hidden Prey a shot. Storm Prey, John Sanford. John Sanford, Dark of the Moon, and The Devil's Code by John Sanford. Jeffrey Deaver, writing as William Jeffries, Hell's Kitchen. Jeffrey Deaver, The Empty Chair, a Lincoln Rhyme novel. Mortal Prey. Broken Prey. There's a ton of these Prey novels in the series by John Sanford. He really hit it big with that. Jeffrey Deaver, Roadside Crosses. There is no thriller writer today like Jeffrey Deaver. You know what I really like, my preferred genre is suspense novels, political suspense, detective suspense. I just like a fast, believable, pulse-racing book. So yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this Jeffrey Deaver. I will be reviewing one of his books. I'm probably going to read The Bone Collector first. Oh, wow. I really like these. Yeah, I'm excited. Another Jeffrey Deaver. But what I'm really excited about here is The Hunger Games and Catching Fire. You know, I read these two books years ago, and I let a few years go by before trying to read the third one, and I couldn't recall the plots well enough of the first two to enjoy the third one, so I gave up on it. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to crush out the Hunger Games trilogy, and I'm going to review them here on my channel. And I'm also going to have some spoiler-filled discussions with a woman that has read them several times. We're going to go through each book and talk about them, so I'm glad I don't have to buy those. Yeah, oh, and here's the third one, Mockingjay. Chosen Prey, another John Sanford. Oh, shoot. Let me grab another box here, guys. We're about halfway there. We're getting into some Pattersons now. And I know a lot of people criticize James Patterson because they don't like the fact that he co-authors with a lot of people. But I'll tell you what, I read his book, Along Came a Spider, and it was just gripping. That thing was gripping. That first Alex Cross novel, one of the best books I've ever read. I'd put it in my top 5 suspense novels of all time. And every book that I've read by James Patterson, which is only about 5, seemed to be really good. He's really just mastered that kind of book. Oh, wow. Oh, you know, I had these. Oh, wait a minute. The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. This is a continuation of the Dragon Tattoo series, which I'm going into book 2 in the near future. I should do pretty good with the reviews on those here on YouTube. A lot of people love looking up the reviews for those things. James Patterson, Hide and Seek, and James Patterson, The Lake House. Oh, wow. Andy and Alex. Yeah, that Along Came a Spider. I just loved it. You know, I need to really dig into the Alex Cross books. I've only just read that one. Here's The Eighth Confession. This one is in another series of his. He co-authored this with Maxine Petrino. The New Women's Murder Club. Yeah, that's the series that's in. James Patterson. Sail, co-authored. James Patterson Lifeguard, co-authored with Andrew Gross. I think Andrew Gross has done quite a few books with James Patterson. I actually read this one, 4th of July, by James Patterson and Maxine Petro. It was a decent book. I wasn't thrilled with it. Here's another one with Andrew Gross, Third Degree. You know, James Patterson is one of the most successful authors of all time. That Along Came a Spider blew him up. Here it is, Along Came a Spider. And here's one, The Big Bad Wolf, which is part of his Alex Cross series. James Patterson's Double Cross and James Patterson's Season of the Machete. James Patterson's Second Chance and James Patterson's First to Die. This must be a pretty good one if he made a series out of it. The Women's Murder Club books. Maybe I should give one of these another shot. In fact, I will. Here's one I'm quite excited about. This is an author I want to try here in the near future. Looks like there's a photo of a cat in there. One I want to try here or an author I want to try is Ruth Ware. This is The Lying Game. I bought another novel by her recently. I don't know. I hear a lot of good stuff. I hear some people, they don't like her books, but I'm going to give her a shot here soon. The Girl on the Train. You know, I read this when it first came out, and I thought it was just a weird book. I couldn't believe it blew up like it did, but yeah, I read it when it first came out, and Finders Keepers by Stephen King came out at that time. I read those like back to back. I'm interested in giving Paula Hawkins another shot because I know she wrote another book. Maybe I'm due for a reread on this one. Maybe I'll have a little bit of a different take on it if I give it another shot. What do we have here? Malcolm X. This looks like it is the autobiography of Malcolm X. To Kill a Mockingbird. Hey, maybe we're going to get in some classics here. Harper Lee. I read this about 2 years ago. Oh, wow. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I know that this blew up. Hell, I might read this later this year. I heard that this is just a fantastic book. Oh, and I said I was going to read this soon, but I didn't own it. Rebecca. Lord of the Flies, William Golding. This is another one I want to read. From what I understand, this has some parallels with the Hunger Games. Cynthia, The Lion's Game. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Row Books. The short-lived TV series was also good. Women's Murder Club. Here's The Girl Who Played with Fire, which is the next Stieg Larsson that I'll be going into here soon. Hey, guys, if you're watching on Facebook, I'd really appreciate it if you'd come over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Everything literary here on my channel. That's all I cover is books. Reading Funk. That's all you got to type in. Patricia Cornwell, Postmortem. That, I read one of her books. It was Point of Origin. It was about fire. It's this killer that was using fire. He was burning people up and stuff. I thought it was a pretty good book. It's the only Patricia Cornwell that I've read so far. I also read about 2/3 of her book on Jack the Ripper, the newer one, the updated one. It was a little repetitive. I didn't finish it, but I thought she put a pretty interesting case together on Walter Sickert. But that's Jack the Ripper. From Potter's Field, Patricia Cornwell. Yeah, Emma, I just went through a ton of Stephen King, like 50 books the lady gave me of Stephen King. When this goes up, if you want to go back and watch the beginning, I started right out with Stephen King. Nora Roberts, Sacred Sins. Patricia Cornwell, a Scarpetta novel, Trace. Black Notice, Patricia Cornwell. Unnatural Exposure, Patricia Cornwell. And A Dark, Dark Wood, that's the one that I bought. Let me scroll up in the comments here. Yeah, James Patterson. Here's another one. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So I have those now. Actually, wait, I still need one. I have the first two and the fourth, I think. Nora Roberts, Summer Pleasures. Nora Roberts, Birthright. Patricia Cornwell, Port Mortuary. Well, that sounds good. Sounds like it'll be a good murder mystery. Patricia Cornwell, Blowfly. Nora Roberts, With Open Arms. And Patricia Cornwell, All That Remains. Well, I've damn near got years worth of reading to do on these things. Here's another copy of Unnatural Exposure in John Sanford's Field of Prey. I'm going to dig into these Prey novels. I'll bet now that I have a bunch of these things, I'll go on a tear with them. Maybe I can read a few back to back. I like a good crime book. What I really like about murder mystery is I don't like the 1 in a billion clues, because I'm trying to solve the book as I'm reading it. And I think that if I'm cunning enough, I should be able to do that. At least in principle, I should be able to do it. There should be something in there that I can catch if I'm paying attention to put the case together. I don't like the 1 in a billion clues, and I don't like the impossible twists where I could have never seen something coming, because it's like I'm trying to solve the case, right? And if there's some impossible twist I never could have seen coming, then why have I been paying attention trying to put all this together? I don't like how that can be thrown off like that. But if a mystery book ends and I didn't get it right, but I'm kicking myself in the rear because I feel like I should have got it right, but the author got one over on me, then that's an ace. Nora Roberts, Brazen Virtue. Nora Roberts, Carnal Innocence. The Dark Half I didn't like. I thought it was horrible. Tammy Hoag, Dust to Dust. This is the sequel of the hit Ashes to Ashes, neither of which have I read. Tammy Hoag, Prior Bad Acts. She also dropped me off a few more of these. Attack of the Deranged Mutant Killer Monster. Calvin and Hobbes. Another Calvin and Hobbes. And one more Calvin and Hobbes. Tammy Hoag, Dark Paradise. Tammy Hoag, Still Waters. Luann Rice, Silver Bells. This looks like it's a holiday tale. Maybe I'll read that closer to Christmas. Never heard of the author before. New York Times best-selling author. Another copy of Prior Bad Acts. Janet Ivanovich, a Stephanie Plum novel. Hard 8. I've seen a lot of books by this woman, but I've never read one. I know she's pretty popular amongst crime readers. Here's another Luann Rice. True Blue. Looks like it's probably like a feel-good type story. Maybe some romance where romance isn't the primary part of the plot. That's what that looks like to me. Here's another Luann Rice. Safe Harbor. Tammy Hoag, Guilty as Sin. This is a pretty hefty paperback. A good legal thriller can be a great read. Tammy Hogue, Kill the Messenger. I've not read anything by Agatha Christie. Actually, I did one time, but it's been so long that I can't remember the title. All I can remember is there were some guys betting on horse races in it. But I have one by her, and I want to read her again just so I can review one here on my channel. I'm trying to get different authors under my belt, at least one book by these people. And I've got to read another Agatha Christie because for the life of me, I won't be able to remember the name of that one that I had read. It was pretty good, though. It was like back during the Greek times, and there was this murder and everything, but I just can't recall. Deeper Than the Dead, Tammy Hogue. Well, my bookshelves are going to be filling up behind me, guys. There's some room on them now, but when I shelve some of these things, they'll be nice and filled up. Firefly Beach, Lou Anne Rice. Lou Anne Rice, Last Kiss. Cynthia, how did you enjoy Guilty as Sin? Summer of Roses, Lou Anne Rice. Lou Anne Rice, The Secret Hour. I've never heard of this woman. Let me know in the comments if you read anything by her. I'm stoked about this Hunger Games trilogy. I might have to take a detour on the books that I plan to read in the near future and go back and read those first two Hunger Games over again so that I can finally read Mockingjay and get that series under my belt and out of the way. The Perfect Summer, Lou Anne Rice. Lou Anne Rice, Beach Girls. Looks like I've got one more box here. Well, this is a surprise. I've got books just scattered all around me, stacked up. This is quite a deal. You know, this actually saved me a lot of money because some of these books I was planning on purchasing. And I did a pretty good epic fantasy trip to the bookstore the other day. Check that out on my Reading Funk YouTube channel. It was like 2 videos ago that I did that. I went down to the local used paperback mart and bought a bunch of epic fantasy novels and one science fiction novel. So I did a book haul on that. This is by far the biggest book haul I've ever done. This is a great surprise for me. Nora Roberts. Cordinia's Royal Family, Gabriel and Alexander. Wow, that sounds like it's interesting. That might be interesting to read back. It looks like this one takes place back a while in history. I've got to read a Nora Roberts. I still haven't read one of her books. Nora Roberts, Whiskey Beach. The Couple Next Door, Vampire Garbs. I was supposed to read that for a reading group at the library before COVID-19 hit. Everyone thought it was pretty good, but I chose not to read that one. The McCade Brothers, Rafe and Jared, Nora Roberts. Oh, that's interesting. So she has I know that John Jakes does these old Westerns where it's like a family and it's the saga about the family and there's real lengthy novels in the series and stuff. That could be addicting. Nora Roberts, Jewels of the Sun. Nora Roberts, Cordinia's Royal Family, another installment. Bennett and Camellia. Two more Nora Roberts. The Stanislavski sisters and the MacGregors, Serena and Kane. Hey there, Dave Edmonds. Nora Roberts, Lila and Susanna. Nora Roberts, Reunion. Nora Roberts, Angels Fall and the Calhouns, Susanna and Megan. Wow, I never thought it would take me an hour to go through all these books. This was a really good surprise. The McGregors, Alan Grant, Nora Roberts. I like purple book covers for some reason. You know, I'd like to collect like all my favorites in these purple books. I don't know what, I don't know. I just think it works well. Purple book. The McGregors Grooms. Wow, this is a series by Nora Roberts. You know, another one I've never read is a Danielle Steele. You know, Danielle Steele is the 4th most selling author in history. And she's the most selling living author. She sold more than James Patterson, more than Stephen King, like double the amount of those people. She sold more than J.K. Rowling. Yeah, she is the heavyweight of writers. She's literally 4th of all time behind Shakespeare, and a couple other authors, and then it's her. Nora Roberts, Reflections and Dreams. I'm not sure if I have read anything by an Indian author. Actually, I think I did. I think I might have read a Western by an Indian author, and I think I might have read some kind of suspense novel by an Indian author. Oh, no. I'm thinking Native American authors. The Western was by a Native American author. If you're talking Indians as someone from India, I'm not sure that I have. I might have, though. It's hard saying. The McGregors, Daniel and Ian. Nora Roberts. Here's another one about the Stanislavski brothers. And another one about the history of the McGregor family rebellion. I just finished The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Cannot wait to cover that here on this channel. There's going to be more than one video about that great novel. It was 1,250 some pages. It was just a great first installment in an epic fantasy series. You know, Brandon Sanderson is a heavyweight. He's in a league of his own when it comes to fantasy authors. That The Way of Kings was just the pinnacle of fantasy writing. The final one, my friends, Nora Roberts, Love by Design. You know, I went through so many books here. If anyone's just joining us, I actually started out with a bunch of Stephen King books. She really hooked me up well, and I should now have almost every Stephen King book that he's put together. So I've got to go through those in the next few days here on YouTube. My background will start to fill in. I'm really going to fill in those books cases, and I'll have a lot more Stephen King hardbacks up now that I have so many. But yeah, thanks for dropping by, everyone. You know, if you're just joining me, what happened here was a viewer of my Reading Funk YouTube channel contacted me. She wanted to bring some books by, and she brought me a ton of them. So that was just great. I didn't realize she was going to bring me 8 boxes, but I'm glad that she did. Those Stephen King hardbacks are in great condition. You know, a lot of the bigger booktubers, they have a P.O. box where people can send them things. And then, of course, they read and review and show them and everything. I think I might do that here in the near future. We're plugging away toward 3,000 subscribers, guys. So I'm looking forward to hitting that 3K. And I've got some great ideas for content in the near future. I just purchased a big 10-foot by 10-foot green screen so that I can mess with my background. So I'm thinking about doing a literary news channel where I'm basically like a news reporter talking about issues in fiction and new books and everything. Not entirely sure, but I'm going to continue to try to do new things here and become the best book channel on YouTube. So I thank everyone for dropping by. I've got to clean all these books up and shelve some of them. This is great. I've seen quite a few here that I'm not only interested in reading, but that I needed to purchase because I want to read them. The Hunger Games thing, I'm really happy about those hardbacks because unfortunately I waited so long in between books 1 and 2, in book 3 that I couldn't remember what was going on when I started reading Mockingjay, so I put it down. But now I can go back through those and do a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of content about those. And I think those would be pretty successful reviews because people were really into the Hunger Games trilogy, and it's one of the most looked up book reviews. So I think I can have a hit with that. But anyways, guys, my mic's falling over here. I am going to cut it off. This was a great gift, all these books. You know, I've got a bunch of James Patterson now. I've got a bunch of Stephen King's now. I've got some authors I never even heard of. I've got the Hunger Games things. I've got the Bone Collector. I've got these Stieg Larsson novels. So I've just got a ton of stuff here, guys. One more reach out to you people watching on Facebook. Come on over to the YouTube channel, Reading Funk. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out. I will have my review up within the next day or two. You know, I'm actually so excited about this The Way of Kings review by Brandon Sanderson that I'm actually investigating the best ways to actually review a book because I don't want to mess this thing up. This is huge, this review. I want to make sure I give a clear, concise, properly structured review and I hit all the points I want to hit and everything like that. This is how serious I am about this The Way of Kings review. And I've got another booktuber who has read it along with me, and we're going to meet up in a room and we're going to talk about it. That'll be an episode as well, too. The discussion I'm having between me and her on what we thought about The Way of Kings and everything like that. So, yeah, I'm going to do an abrupt ending here, guys. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.